Hello, everybody. I am so excited today to be interviewing Meredith Gibson, who is the CEO of the Association for Women in Science, and also just an incredible leader and a really just great person all around. So I'm so thrilled that she accepted my invitation to interview. I will let her give a bit of an introduction to herself before we dive into the questions.
Thank you so much, Ainsley. It is a pleasure to be here. And I am thrilled to be working with you on this and just being part of your career and your journey, because really, that's one of the best things about being involved with AWIS is the community of people you meet, the interests they have, learning from them and supporting them as they go on their process and their journey. I have been with AWIS for about 17 years now in a variety of roles, which seems amazing, but it turns out that when you're in such an interesting and supportive place, it's a it's a terrific place, and I have just been able to stay and transfer my career and always be learning throughout the years. So it's been a great journey for me. I've been CEO about 2 years, and I was drawn to AWIS as an employer because early in my life, I made a decision that I wanted to work for mission-based organizations. And so chose the nonprofit realm to have my career in. And I've been extremely lucky through a number of different jobs of being able to select which mission I wanted to support. And AWIS is fabulous, full participation for women within science to whatever choice they want, whatever full participation means for them. That's our goal and how we're supporting our members. So I'm thrilled to be here and to get to know you a little bit more and to talk to the people who are watching.
Awesome. Well, I love that you already kind of kicked us off with some things that I was hoping to talk about tonight, one of which was how why it's important that women empower each other and find these kinds of communities where we can have our voices feel heard. Because one of the things that I really want to know about you is how you've been able to develop this clear confidence you have in yourself and your leadership abilities and your values. Because I like that you mentioned, mission-based organization. I think that's a really cool thing. I want to touch upon more later for sure. But the goal of my goal with this interview is really just to understand more about your thoughts on how you've been able to become such a confident leader and why it's important that women have people who can build each other up. So I think I'll start with that question. And why is it important that women empower one another to advocate for themselves?
Well, I love that you think that I'm confident because there are moments when I'm not, right? And I need my peer group. I need my kitchen cabinet, which is what some friends call it. I need people who have worked with me before to remind me of strengths that I have, to help me think out and reflect on a problem that I'm facing so I can bring those strengths to bear, so I can acknowledge where I need to learn and grow and know more and reach out for help. So I think it's incredibly important to gather people around you who can both hold up a mirror and say, by the way, you're really good at X. And you learned that 3 years ago. Now you're learning something new. And it's going to take time. And here are some resources. And you need some people who are just cheerleaders. I've never seen you step a foot wrong. And you think, oh, goodness, that's because you were my roommate in college and you're a really good friend. But nevertheless, that level of support can make a difference in all sorts of different ways. And that's one of the great things about AWIS is providing you a community of people to go to learn from or to ask questions of, and to bring part of it, bring your skills to the community and share them. I think when I think about advocating for myself, I also try to think about what I can bring to advocate for others, because then it is a relationship that's building and I feel much more confident in it, as opposed to just putting forward myself. And sometimes, at least for me, that's hard. I don't want to sing my praises because I feel uncomfortable with that. So when I bring a skill to a conversation, then I know that I'm also providing value. And I think that's important to women. Uh, and I think
Okay.
we actually have one just quick story about Lori Leshin is the head of JPL
Mm-hmm.
for NASA. And they actually have a program called TAP. And that program is for women to find other women and say, this job is open. I think you'd be good at it. So helping
So
people
cool. Oh
apply
my
it,
gosh.
right? Just giving a little boost up the ladder, even in just a, did you see it? You can do these things.
Mm-hmm. That is really, I love that idea of that program because I think that definitely speaks to a lot of what we were already saying, which is that you need people to tell you what your strengths are when sometimes you aren't feeling like you understand them as well. You know, actually, in one of my classes here at UNC, we're talking about it's called the art and science expertise. And one of the things we talked about this past week has been it's very similar to that about self-awareness and recognizing that sometimes you need other people to show you your strengths and show you where you need to improve and help you gain a better understanding of your own your own journey, your own trajectory, where you can grow and where you can change. um so I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's a really important piece when it comes to self advocacy because I feel like we toss around that word a lot. It's like advocating for yourself, being aggressive and taking what you want and fighting for yourself. But that's not what it is. It's about utilizing your strengths to move everybody forward in some way and helping to lift others up by tapping into those strengths that you have. And it sounds like you see it very similar way, which is awesome, especially because with AWIS, I feel like it really kind of speaks to that.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I think that we sometimes we might not realize we have a skill because it's easy for us and we assume
Mm,
that everybody else can do it. But when you are pulling together a team or managing a group, being able to find the skills where people excel and allow them to amplify in that area and balancing it with someone else's skills that's also needed on the team, that's a critical component of it. And so when you're thinking about how, for me, how that relates to self advocacy is, again, really being able to reflect on what that skill is. I think that when I think about self advocacy, I also think about false narratives that we hear or that we tell ourselves. And so it
mhm.
comes to a reflection point of, um, you know, the career that I really want, or I think I should have. You know, am I supposed to get married? You know, was I supposed to be high school valedictorian? Was I supposed to go to this college? Was I supposed to marry and have a few children? Are those
Mhm.
the things I want? And then to be
I
able
love
to
that.
advocate
Mhm.
for the actual things, not the societal expectations. That can
Mhm.
be sometimes hard to unwrap.
I really like that, and I think that's a core piece when it comes to the advancement of women in STEM. Trying or not trying, but just recognizing that what society is trying to tell you to do is not always going to be what you actually feel like you want to do. And whether that is sort of a subtle stigma that, oh, you should have kids when you're this age, or, oh, the mom should be the one taking care of the kids. But recognizing that maybe that's what somebody else thinks you should be, but is that what you actually want? And what kind of strategies do you employ to do that kind of self-reflection so that you sort of understand yourself more? Because it can be easy to say, oh, I'm going to reflect on my strengths, I'm going to figure out what I'm strong in, but how do you actually do that?
Sometimes it's I'm a very process oriented person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm calendaring out my day or meetings, sometimes I'll be like thumbs up, thumbs down, right next to an activity that I did, whether I did it well or whether I thought I should learn, or was it a good day or was it a bad day? Sort of trying, because I also want to see some data. What's the trends? Where do I feel more concerned, so therefore can figure out how to have more support, or where do I feel strong and capable. So part of it is keeping data in whichever way you want. So because I think that when you are struggling with an idea or a next step, for me, I can be caught up in sort of right in the moment. And so breaking that, how do you take the breath of pause, right? You've got a new situation. Do you love it? Everybody wants to know if you love it. You're like, I need 3 months to decide if this is really the right job for me. Today, I can tell you the coffee was good. Right?
Right.
So I try to break the concept that I need to know right away, and I try to have something to compare over time.
I really like that. As a math person myself, I find that really interesting, that idea of kind of quantifying your feelings and your strengths and your progress, because I think that's probably really inspiring also to see your growth physically with numbers or symbols or in any kind of quantification system. And conversely, or additionally, I also really like that you pointed out that trying to break that feeling that you need to know right away. And I feel like that really ties in a lot with some of the challenges that women face with the pressures that are put on us to be perfect and to follow the specific storyline that we should do, or we're supposed to do, but allowing for that freedom of exploration and failure and growth and change, and maybe not knowing if you want to have kids yet, but having that be one option for your life rather than the exact direction you're supposed to go. So I like that you brought that up. How would you say that's especially true when it comes to STEM? Because we've been talking sort of about women leadership in general, but obviously AWIS is particularly focused on science. So how does that pressure to be perfect and that the importance of exploration particularly fit in with science and STEM?
I think that it is a really fascinating question. First of all, for so many scientists, especially as you choose each level of your education path, you have now invested a lot of time, potentially a lot of money. If you're in your postdoc, you have chosen to do that then instead of going directly to industry. So there are many decisions to make, and they can seem and they are large at the time you're making them. And I think that sometimes you forget that you have a longer runway. Also with STEM, that can be very difficult is that if you step away from your career, many of our members tell us how nervous they are to step back because they've missed some technological advance, or they just have a hole in their research and then their timeline that other professions don't face.
Interesting.
The other interesting thing I think about STEM that affects the sort of perfection aspect of it, and I'm fascinated by, is throughout so much of your educational journey, when you're in graduate school, if you're writing grants and you're submitting papers, and there can be a lot of rejection. And other fields don't, if you've gone straight into the workforce after your undergraduate degree, that can look very different. So the fact that you feel judged a lot, I think then as I think about that also, I think scientists and women in general, we think a lot about our failures or perceived failures, what I didn't do correctly. I wonder about the amount of time we think about our successes and what did go correctly there. So you change what you focus on.
I like that. I agree. I think that is part of just the inherent, just the essence of STEM itself is that chasing after those failures. So there is probably that tendency to hyperfixate on them. But I like that you mentioned, also celebrating your successes, so celebrating your wins, maybe you didn't get the past 10 grants, but you got this one. So be happy about that for at least a bit before you dive back into that challenge of let's get the next one. Let's do even better. So I guess sort of what you're saying, or what it sounds like you're saying is, yes, allow yourself to be open to failure, but don't fixate on that as the sole defining factor of your career, like the fact that you are just constant failure. Rather, focus on that as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to expand your knowledge and expand your skill sets, while also recognizing that you still bring value. Failing does not mean that you have less value. Rather, it's almost you have more value if you know how to address that failure in the right way, because you can be shown as a resilient and creative member of this team or this workspace that you're in.
Absolutely. When I think about it, we all learned things as children, whether we were lucky enough to have violin lessons or we just learned how to read or ride a bicycle. And there were lots of moments of failure there, but we don't remember them, right? It's just
That's
the
a good
skills
point.
we now have. And I think of it somewhat as the same as when you're chasing new ideas and you're trying new things all the time, as scientists do. You have forgotten that other big achievements in your life took a lot of little steps to get to the final place.
I like that. Yes. And that also, again, ties with what we're learning in this class. I'm probably going to reference this class at least like 10 more times in our conversation because I love it so much. But one of the things we've been talking about is how you have to, yes, you can have those big distant goals, but you have to break it down into smaller goals and smaller steps, or else you're going to get discouraged because you're never going to be able to just make that one leap. It takes time, it takes effort. But if you keep having that confidence in yourself that you can do it, you will continue to make those incremental changes, incremental steps, eventually reaching that point of achieving that goal. And so in terms of your own journey, then, one of my questions for you really is, how has your role as CEO shaped your own self-confidence? But it feels like a more applicable question might be, how has your journey to this point shaped your own self-confidence?
Well, I have a funny story. I think it's funny anyway. I think my journey has been, I have an incredibly supportive community of personal friends, which makes me very lucky. As a friend of mine says, her father still wears her university undergrad sweatshirt around. He's always been on Team Adrian, right?
That's so awesome.
Yep. So I think that my journey, when I look back on different challenges that I faced, different steps, trying to determine which challenges were exciting and I wanted to reach for them. And sometimes there'd be a challenge given to me that was a little bit, made me more worried or anxious. So trying to hold those successes and that I achieved, both those that were exciting and those that caused me more worry, that has really helped me as a leader to think, I can do this too. And sometimes it helps to think, I know these different leaders who see value in me. And additionally, I've seen them ask a question or look for another resource. And that helps me too to break down any sort of myth that there is a leader who knows it all and has it totally together. Because everyone is learning on their journey.
I completely agree. I really like that. And I like your mention of kind of discerning between those different types of challenges, ones that exciting versus worrying. I think that's an interesting point that I've never really heard anyone say before. But I think that's really powerful because it does speak to the fact that we're always kind of like, oh, embrace challenges, you can do it, but not all challenges are ones that are going to help you grow. There are some things that you do need to recognize are just not the right place for you right now, or not the right place, not the right thing for you to focus on at this point in your life. Um, and I feel like, especially as women, we are conditioned to take on any challenge and just, suck it up and move through it and not worry about it. But I like that the way that you characterize it sort of recognizes the importance of self-awareness and recognizing, do I feel like this experience is helping me grow, or is it just causing me stress and anxiety and worry, and do I need to find a different direction? So I think that's something that a lot of women would really appreciate to hear, that not all challenges are created equal. Some challenges are signals that you need to find a different group of people, find a different community, find a community like AWIS where those challenges that you will encounter, you'll have support along the way. So I like that you pointed that out, and I appreciate you recognizing also that leaders do not have to be perfect, because I think we say that a lot. We say, you don't have to be perfect, but when it comes from somebody who is a leader, I think it definitely means a lot to see that you have gotten to where you are, with also the recognition that you're not perfect. And there, therefore you don't, it's not a prerequisite for leadership to think that you're perfect or to be perfect and to have every skill. So I like that you bring that up as well. In terms of self-confidence, I think we touched upon the importance of having a community. We've touched upon that idea of like false narratives and finding the skills where people excel and amplifying those. Can you think of a particular time where somebody has helped champion you and helped you see something in yourself that maybe you didn't realize otherwise?
Certainly. Actually, the person who held the CEO role at AWIS before, I did. Sandy, when she came in, I was the chief operating officer. I'd been that for a number of years. I had not ever been to the executive committee meetings. I had not been involved in some of the strategic discussions. I had not been in the room for certain things. And so she started opening those doors for me and said, just come and listen. This is how this is going to be. And then a few minutes later, so I'd like you to write the agenda. What do you think we should discuss? Right? Mm-hmm. She opened the door for me and gave me pieces of it until I had a stronger and stronger base. And then when she took a new professional challenge, she recommended that the board consider me as the next CEO. So I really credit her, because in a small association, in small organizations, sometimes it's harder to think either about cross-training or growing a staff person and their skill sets. So they look outside of that. And it's great to have experience being a leader in some other way, through a volunteer activity, through a professional society, through work on campus. All those things are great, but it is also terrific to have a person who's working with you closely say, what do you think the next thing is? Sometimes I recommend to people, go find your ideal job description, bring it back to me. Let's circle where you might have a skill gap and where you might not. What can I expose you to help you fill that? I don't want you to ever leave here, but someday you might. I want you to go where you want to go.
That's really cool. And as a pre-med, that is literally the way my brain works. It's like, med school, what do I need? Let's get this stronger in here. Get like, I'm okay in here for now. Okay, let's build this up. So I love that she was so willing to bring you into those conversations. I think that really speaks to a facet of a good leader, which is openness to allowing other people to shine and allowing other people to be a part of that conversation, and not trying to take it all for yourself, because in the end, I'm sure what you brought to the conversation was something that nobody else, she couldn't have brought to herself, because she doesn't have your story, she doesn't have your perspective, she doesn't have your beliefs and knowledge. And so that's really, really awesome to hear that she was so big of a champion for you. I bet that was very empowering.
It was. I mean, it just makes you feel so empowered, so valued.
Mhm.
So, you know, I think in the United States, really are attached to our professional persona. That makes
Mhm.
a big impact for many of us on our psychology and mental health. And so to have your coworkers supporting your growth and saying, I think you can do this, and here's how we
Mhm.
can help support that is really tremendous.
Yeah,
And it
that's
is
great to hear.
it's a gift that I hope that I can give others. And then I would encourage everyone to give the people around them, whether they're lateral or in position, or if it's someone who works under them, or just more junior in the associate in the organization.
I love that. I completely agree. I think, granted, I am kind of guilty of it myself, having mixing my professional persona with my personal, but um, I, yeah, I completely agree. And I love that we've continued to refer to this theme of empowerment, because it's definitely a core value of mine and the core value of AWIS. It's clearly, and I think it's great to have that be such a visible part of the organization, because I think what we really need in society is empathy and empowerment and a willingness to rise by lifting others. There's a reason why that quote exists. And so I'm really glad we've been able to touch upon a lot of that today in our conversation. Um, and that being said, as we are sort of nearing the end here, wrapping up, I would love to close just with any advice that you have for women who really want to pursue a career in STEM, but maybe don't yet have that confidence or that belief that they have the strength or the skills to succeed. What advice do you have?
First, I want to send them a hug and say that the strength and skills to succeed. I think that thinking about what success is, right? Is it, you know, finding the cure for COVID? That's awesome. Thank you. But there are a million ways to succeed along the way. So have your have your definition of success be something that you're very comfortable with. Find a community that can support you in any all sorts of aspects, even your friends who want to go camping with you when you just need a timeout from studying, right? So look at all of your supports and how you engage in community in many different ways, because that will help you along your journey. Um, it's always good to enhance your resumes and your skill sets. And through volunteer work, you can do that in a little bit of a less pressure way. Sometimes you
Mhm.
can feel less pressure than if it's your job. Of course, there's still, deadlines and goals, but volunteering can open up something new to you. And I would try to encourage folks to make relationships with people intergenerationally. I think
Mhm.
that would be a great balance of information on both sides. And so I think that can really help help you on the days where things seem to be a little bit bumpier. I
Mhm.
would also, and then, gosh, many ideas. I should edit at some point, but
No,
I,
no, keep them coming. I love this.
um, I, there is so much to STEM. There are so many ways to study it, apply it, discuss it, be involved with it, right? Like We have a whole group of folks at AWIS who are at PhDs, and they became science journalists and science communicators. We have folks who are, scientists and then wanted to become people who worked on policy. So there's a whole breadth of opportunity and very nuanced differences in a career path that can lead you down different routes. And sometimes when I was starting my career, some days I thought, I'm not sure the question to ask, right? Mm-hmm. And so the most conversations possible with the most diverse group of people, that would be my thoughts.
I love that. So what I'm hearing is, talk to people, learn about what STEM is like, and also don't feel like you have to fit this image of success that you've made in your head. Allow yourself that opportunity to explore and figure out who you are and not who you think you should be. So I love that. And I think that's a perfect message to end on. So I will, wrap this up there. Thank you so much for your time tonight. This was a great conversation. It was great to chat with you. And yeah, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom and your experiences and your time with me tonight. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ainsley. It was a pleasure to be here and to chat with you. And I'm really excited by all of the interesting things that you have going on in your volunteer work. And so thank you for being part of the framework that lifts up all women in STEM.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your night.